You know what's a flex? You know what the ultimate flex is for a man? To make enough money so that your woman doesn't need to work. What's a flex is saying, I retired my wife. That's dope. And why anybody wouldn't want that is beyond me. So that if your woman, here it is. If you meet someone and you guys fall in love, you get married, whatever, the ultimate flex for a man is the ability to take his woman out of the workforce. I retired my woman. She doesn't have to work because of me. That's a flex. That's what every man should want. And if you don't want that, there's something wrong with you. That's it. Anybody that thinks that it's not a flex or thinks that they shouldn't have to is a bitch.
Fellas, you hear that? You're a bitch. If you don't want that, congratulations. You're a bitch. I think the majority of us that claim to be provider men, we want that. Right? We want the potential. We want the scenario that it's Christmas time and we're kind of looking and overlooking our families. They open the gifts and they're ecstatic, they're happy, and we want to know that we were able to provide that, to provide for the house, the gifts, the food, right? The status, the the standard of living. I think that's an intrinsic desire, and I think the discussion around this becomes, it lacks nuance. Like most things, it lacks nuance. Let's say, for instance, I make $75,000 a year, and yeah, I can retire my wife if I live in Kentucky, Kansas, if she's willing to live under the $75,000 umbrella. If she's not, then we can't. The problem, I think, from the male perspective is that when we hear the conversations about 50-50, we hear it from a position of excess, of luxury. I don't want to work, but I want all the trappings of luxury that aren't even available to me today. And it's a hard sell to say, hey, I could retire you, but you'll be broke. We'll be struggling. It's a hard sell, and I don't see why any woman would say, yes, I am currently either just above struggling or struggling, and I would want to do this together with you, then add kids, then add a house, a mortgage, then add debt. It's a hard sell. So in truth, for those seeking that they want to provide a meal, they want to be taken care of, you are looking at the top tier, the top earning, males. And then that becomes a scarcity thing. It's not saying it's not possible, but there's a probability that it will happen. Unless you want to be retired under a man making less than whatever standard of living you may have become accustomed to now. For men, we have to really understand that what you're offering or what you're instructing or what you're hoping for someone to do is to give up everything their life has been dedicated towards in terms of education, in terms of drive, to set that aside for a life with you, under your purview. And while I think that we should do a better job of instructing and teaching and coaching younger women and saying life is about choices and trade-offs. If you want to be that independent boss girl, then this is the track you walk. And there's nothing wrong, and don't let anyone shame you or attack you for making that decision. At the same time, if you want to be sort of more at home, raising kids on your own, then this is a track you can take, and there's also nothing wrong with that. But it becomes difficult when you change your mind during the journey, when you vacillate back and forth, when you hop back and forth. It gets to a point where the game has played to a certain ending, and will more than likely direct one way or more than likely direct another. It becomes difficult, and I know we give women the purview of being changeable, being able to change their mind whenever they want. If you feel like this, you feel like that, you are entitled to change your mind. It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind. But up until a point, it becomes very difficult for you to do that. So for men, yes, it's a huge flex being able to say, my wife is corporate, she hated that job, I retired her. I'm responsible. We love that position, right? It gives our lives meaning. It's one of the, I think, one of the intrinsic purposes embedded in us. But to be fair, in the society in which we live in, that we encapsulate, that is a harder thing to actually accomplish. The cost of living skyrocketed. Wages have not done any type of service in trying to be commiserate with that. So as we inch forward to 2026, 2027, 2028, 2030, if the trend continues, then there's nothing indicating that it should stop. Things will only get more and more expensive. The men that can retire you, become more and more of a rarefied breed. So either we learn to redefine what settling means, right? Or we prepare for lonelier outcomes on both sides of the avenue. Because if there's a stratified sort of scenario, then there's going to be a small percentage of men, call it the 10, call it, let's be generous, say 20% of men can provide this sort of lifestyle for you. 80% of men, that is more than a majority, will end up either with someone that you both are working, and currently there doesn't seem to be a narrative that supports that, hey, we're both actually working 50-50, 60-40, 80-20. There's not a narrative out there for that. And maybe that's not something that, we should address later on. But you're going to be with a woman that you may not have been her first choice. You may be her only choice, or she may be the only choice for you because of whatever decisions you've made in life. But we have to, especially us millennials, we may have to start accepting some of these outcomes that we've dreaded may be reality for us. Let them finish up calling you men awful.
That's it.
That's it.
So every man should set a goal for their life to not only be able to provide for themselves in their family, but everyone around them. So for them, make enough for me, great, start there. Then make even more so that I can support another human being, your woman. And then also enough to support the human beings that come from that relationship, your children. And if that's not your goal as a man, there's something wrong with you.
All right, so men, something wrong with you. Set your goals. You need 350K. Set that goal. Good luck. See you in the next one.